Well, good morning. It has been told to me that the best way to do this probably would be to talk about my own experience with Buerger's disease and how it has affected me. So I'm going to take it fairly step by step. Um, it may seem long and drawn out at times, but it actually all ties together. My personal hell, to be blunt, started in August of 2010. And actually, it was the 1st of August of 2010. I noticed that I had a cooling off of the fingers on my one finger on my right hand, one finger on my left hand, my left pinky and my right index finger. This little guy that kind of survived. Um, at first, I didn't think anything of it because problems just didn't really happen that started like that as far as I knew. Now, on the 9th of August 2010, my lower left forearm fistula, which I used for dialysis, quit and was totally dead. So much so that I needed to get back to Michigan as I was in Kansas taking care of my folks. I needed to come back to Michigan as soon as possible. I managed to go to the ER because my blood pressure at the time would not come back up. It was around 70 systolic. And while at the hospital, the doctor prescribed an antibiotic to me called Levaquin, which I am currently taking right now for my pneumonia. Little did I know that the Levaquin was going to play a very integral part in my recovery and my sickness. I returned to Michigan August 10th, the next day, and August 11th, I had a PICC line placed so that I could do dialysis. August 12th, I stood up from bed and I could not walk. My left Achilles tendon had ruptured. My feet had both frozen. I could hardly bend them. And lo and behold, I came to find out that this was attributed to Levaquin and prednisone, which I had been on for years, and their interaction with each other. Now, I saw doctors for my left Achilles tendon, had it had an MRI done on it to make sure that yes, it was ruptured. And then the night before I had surgery to place my new fistula in my upper left arm, they placed a cast on my left foot. Strangely enough, it became a walking cast because no one was able to give me a good alternative as to how to get around, excuse me, after my fistula was placed. September 26th, I believe it was, my fistula was placed, and the following Monday, everything looked great. When they unwrapped my arm, checked the dressing, everything looked fine. The Wednesday of that week, they unwrapped it. It looked fine. Friday of that week, they unwrapped my arm, and the staples had macerated away from the flesh. Basically, the staples had pulled apart, and I had a gaping hole in my arm, which happened to be right above the spot where they tie the vein and the artery together to perform your dialysis. That's where they create your fistula. At that time, my doctors were afraid that I was going to bump something in the night, move wrong, and I was going to be dead before EMS could even get to the house, because I would bleed out before anyone could get there. That did not happen, and we started the search to find out what was it that I had. My fingers had continued to degrade. They had developed what looked like blood blisters, and those blood blisters turned into dry gangrene, and the dry gangrene actually started to eat away the tips of both fingers. Remember, this little guy. October, I want to say it was middle of October, I checked into Bronson to have some tests done to see if they could figure out what was going on with me and to give this disease that was becoming so insidious a name. Well, they were unsure. They took some biopsies out of some ulcers that had formed on my forearm, and they came up with the term calciphylaxis. Now, calciphylaxis is an interesting disease. But it doesn't do much for you other than kill you. Long and short of it, it was a fatal disease. So I scheduled an appointment for November, I believe, 11th at the U of M in Ann Arbor. And when I arrived there for my appointment, they took me into a room. And in short order, there was one nurse and 3 doctors in the room with me. And they did biopsies of the ulcers, which had gotten worse by this time, right on the spot, right in the room, and rushed them off to pathology. So at this point, this is about 10 minutes. I'm going to stop here. It gives me a good place to stop. And next video I'll pick up from here on how did we identify Buerger's disease. Thank you for watching and keep supporting.